All right, here's some questions that you can do that are asking to solve an equation. So they want us to solve this equation. If I see that it's a quadratic, there's a square in there, the first thing I'm going to do is bring everything over to one side. So it'll be 12z squared plus z minus 6 is equal to 0. Now, a couple of different ways to solve this question is you could, because there's a number out front, you could use the AC method, or you can solve it by guess and check. I'll maybe try the AC method. So 12 times negative 6 is negative 72. So I have to find two numbers that multiply to 72 and have a difference of 1. I know it's a difference because this sign is negative, so they have to be different signs. Okay, so when I look at that, I think 8 and 9 multiply to 72. And if I have a negative 8 and a positive 9, they'll add up to a positive 1. So I'll take those two numbers there and plug them in for the z. All right, so 12z squared minus 8z plus 9z minus 6 equals 0. Okay, group factor each of those. So I think I can take a 4z out of each of those, leaving me with a 3z minus 2. I can take a 3 out of each of those, a positive 3, leaving me with a z minus 2 equals 0. They both have a 3 is z minus 2, so I can bring that out front. And what's left is the 4z plus 3 equals 0. And then to solve, it'd be 3z minus 2 equals 0, or 4z plus 3 equals 0. To solve, I'd add 2 to each side, so it'd be 3z is equal to 2, and then divide both sides by 3. So 2/3, same thing on this one, 4z equals a negative 3, divide each side by 4, and I get negative 3/4. So those are my two answers. Let's try another one similar. So here's same question. There's an r squared, so it's a factoring kind of thing. This one's arranged in a funny order. One thing that I look at is this is last. I don't want that. I want that to be first. It's also negative. I don't like that either. So maybe I'll take it to the other side and make 21r squared positive. And then I'll bring the other stuff over too. So this minus r comes over, it becomes positive r. And the 10 comes over and it becomes a minus 10 equals 0. Okay? All right, so now AC method, 21 times 10, 210. So things that multiply to 210, again, this is a minus on this last term, so it has to have a difference of 1. I think 14 times 15 is 210, and they have a difference of 1. I need a positive r, so this one will be positive, this one negative. Okay, so I'm going to replace this r here with a negative 14r plus a 15r minus 10 equals 0. Okay, group factor those guys. I think I can take a 2r out. Oh, that's not a 2, that's a 21. Whoops. Glad I looked at that now. Okay, so that's, what can I take out then? Oh, a 7. So I can take out a 7r, leaving me with a 3r minus 2. And out of these I can take a plus 5, leaving me with, 3r minus 2. Whew, works. Equals 0. So 0 is equal to 3r minus 2 and 7r plus 5. Then, since it's equal to 0, I'll use the 0 property. So 3r minus 2 equals 0, or 7r plus 5 is equal to 0. Add 2 to both sides. Divide both sides by 3, 2/3. Subtract 5 from each side. Divide both sides by 7. Okay, so those are my two answers for that. Here's another one, and it's a similar kind of thing. It's a factor kind of question. And on this one it says, determine for what values of x this equation is not defined. So what values of x not defined? Another way of similar way of saying that is asking what is the domain. So what is the domain of this function? What are the x's that are allowed, or what are the x's that aren't allowed? Now, the only time that you can't allow something for an x is if you have a 0 on the bottom. Now, in this case, I could put 0 on the bottom for x. I could plug a 0 in for x because it would not give me a 0 on the bottom. But what I want to do is figure out what numbers can I not put in for x that's going to make a 0 on the bottom there. Now, an easy way to do that is just to take that bottom thing and factor it. So you got something up top, which we don't care about, but on the bottom I can factor out a 6, I think. So factor out a 6, and I'd be left with x squared minus 54 divided 6, 9, I think. Oh, now that's a difference of squares. So I have something up the top, and then 6 over x minus 3 and x plus 3. Okay, so it's factored. So now I can easily say, hey, well, you cannot put a 3 in there because 3 minus 3 is 0, and 0 times anything is going to be 0, and that's going to give you a 0 on the bottom of the fraction. Bzz, can't happen. So 3 is an answer that you cannot have. So x cannot be equal to 3. What can it not be here? Yeah, negative 3. So in this case here, x can't be 3, and in this one, x cannot be equal to a negative 3. So those are the values for which this function is not defined. So you can't put a 3 in, can't put a negative 3 in. Now, another way of saying that is the domain is the set of all numbers of x as long as x does not equal to 3 and x does not equal to negative 3. Okay, they might put in there somewhere like x is an element of the real numbers, indicating that x can be anything as long as it's not those two numbers. Okay, hopefully that helps you with those 3 questions.